mean, there are plenty of people that will, knock you. There will be plenty of people that will throw rocks, but there are very few people that will step up to the plate and say, you know what, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that we can make our community or our country better, and that will actually put their money where their mouth is.
Hey YouTube, my name is Jack and welcome to episode 29 of the Passion Effect podcast, a podcast where we inspire you to follow your passions to live a happier and more purposeful life. And I'm so excited for you today. Thank you so much for joining because I have a very special guest. I'm joined with New South Wales Minister for Energy and Environment, member for Hornsby, politician Matt Kean. Since starting his political career in 2011, Matt has established himself as a senior politician and has actively campaigned towards greater action on climate change and the environment on a national level. And in 2020, Matt delivered the biggest renewable energy policy in Australia's history, the Electricity Infrastructure Roadmap. And today on the podcast, Matt is here to talk about how you can make a positive difference in your community, how you can leverage your networks to achieve goals, and the opportunities available to economies that invest towards renewable energy. This is episode 29 of the Passion Effect podcast with the one and only Matt Kean. Matt, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to be here with me on the Passion Effect. I'm so excited to have you.
Mr. Jack Pittman, I'm so excited to be on your podcast. I mean, I'm fired up now just listening to your intro.
Awesome. That's fantastic. That's exactly what we're all about. So I do want to start the podcast by talking to you about your early, interest in politics. And I want to start the journey with, before entering politics, you did work as an accountant at PwC. You completed a Bachelor of Business at UTS. What was the journey like transitioning into politics, and what was the reason behind leaving the corporate world to go into politics?
Look, I got involved in politics because I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make my community and my country a bit better than I found it. And I thought I had something to offer. And, the corporate world was really good for me. I learned a lot of skills, developed a lot of professional skills in particular, and that's been really handy in my current role. But, it wasn't what inspired me. It wasn't what made me want to get out of bed in the morning. It wasn't what I was passionate about. So now I'm working in something that I believe in, I'm passionate about, and I'm able to use my skills to make a difference. And, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's a real privilege to find something that you love and to work in that. Means that it doesn't feel like work. It's an amazing job that I have, an amazing opportunity I have.
Yeah, what an amazing opportunity to make a difference and impact so many people's lives. But this journey for politics began way even before you were an accountant at PwC. I want to roll the clock back a bit to when you were a teenager. You were involved in a resident group fighting for overdevelopment in northern Sydney to stop units being put up in Wahroonga. And you actually gave a speech, if you might remember, to the Ku-ring-gai Council when you were only 18 years old. What was significant about that moment to you in the context of becoming a politician?
Well, I think what was so significant, Jack, is that it showed me the power of advocacy, the power of politics, that by getting involved, you could actually make a difference. I think a lot of people sit there and complain about things as they are and don't get involved to make things how they should be. I didn't want to be one of those people. I didn't want to sit on the sidelines and watch other people make decisions for me. I wanted to, be on the field playing in the game. And, here I am today. I joined, it's a long way since I went down to my local council to advocate to protect the character and amenity of my suburb. But, here I am doing it on a much larger stage, trying to make our state the best state to live, to work, and to raise a family. So, again, it shows from that small start in politics, that story about, trying to do something to make my street a little bit better. That's what politics is all about, bringing about the change that you want to see. And the only way you can do that is by getting involved in the process rather than sitting on the sidelines and throwing rocks.
Yeah, and you spoke there about making a difference, and it certainly seems to be a bit of a theme throughout this conversation so far. I'm just curious, where does that mindset to want to make a difference and put yourself out there at such a young age, knowing that you may not be able to achieve what you want at that age?
Well, I think that my family had a really important role in that mindset, creating that mindset. I mean, I was always encouraged to speak out, uh, particularly when it came to injustice or you're fighting for what was right. Certainly, my education. I had an enormously privileged upbringing by going to St Ignatius College at Riverview. That gave me so many opportunities and taught me that you should be using your skills and talents to make the world a better place, to serve the community. And that's something that has stayed with me to this day as a minister and certainly inspired me into the work that I do. So I think those early formative years, those key influences in my life have really shaped the person who I am today.
Absolutely. And it seems to be doing wonders. I'm just curious, Matt, if you could sum it all up, 2 or 3 things, why are you passionate about politics?
I think politics is unlike a lot of professions in that the scope and the ability to affect change is phenomenal. I mean, where else could a kid get elected to Parliament at 28 years old, which I was, and to be a national figure changing the direction of our energy system and effectively our country at such a young age. I'm 39 now. I've been a minister for 4 years. Politics is all about the art of the possible, and it's where you can affect enormous change for the better of our community, for the better of our country. And that's why I think it's a game like no others. And I'd encourage people that didn't think that they wanted to make a difference. They do, have skills to make our community better, to get involved, to participate in the game rather than sitting on the sidelines and complaining about how things are. Bring about the change that you want to see. That's certainly what I did.
Has your passion for politics changed over time, Matt?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm even more passionate about it because I've seen the positive impact that it can have. I've seen the difference that it can make to individual people's lives and, to the direction of our country. I'm doing it at the moment. As you said in your introduction, we've got some big challenges in this country, challenges that are about how do we reduce our carbon footprint in a way that creates jobs, grows our economy, and drives investment into this state. And that's something that I've been able to do, working with good people, bringing about that change. So I'm even more passionate than I was when I started out. I see the power of politics. I see the positive difference that it could make. And, I just want to keep fighting to improve our country, to make it an even better place to live and to raise kids and to, I guess, grow a family. Australia is a great country. It's because it's had great people leading it. And I want to be part of the next generation of leaders that it's going to take it from good to great.
And what advice would you give to people, young and old, who are considering a career in politics?
Well, I think firstly, get involved. I mean, I started by getting involved in my local community, get involved in the local council. I ended up joining a political party, the party that best aligned with my personal values. Don't be a spectator, be a participant. Join your local community group, join your local political party, whatever party aligns best with your values, but get involved in the process. And who knows where it could take you. I didn't realise when I joined the Young Liberals at 19 years old that I'd end up being a minister of the Crown, certainly before I was 40. But had I not taken those steps, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And those skills and relationships that I developed in the Young Liberal movement, which I'm sure you develop in Young Labor or, if you supported an independence campaign, they're skills that are transferable to all areas of your life, whether it be in developing your personal relationships, whether it be your professional relationships in the corporate world. The skills that you'll learn in a political party, in a political environment are highly transferable and will set you up for success, I believe, in whatever it is you choose to do.
And I'm really glad you brought up the idea there of skills, because it's something I'm really curious to get your opinion on. You touched on there about the importance of skills such as being able to build rapport and develop relationships with other people. Are there any other skills that make a successful politician, or you think politicians need to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm certainly not an expert. I certainly don't have all the skills to be successful, but in my view, there are a lot of skills that you need. I mean, obviously the ability to build relationships, to listen to people, to understand them, to be able to follow through on what you say you're going to do. I mean, that is a really important skill. It's all about developing trust. If you can deliver on what you say you're going to do, I mean, that's really important in this line of work. And it's amazing that a lot of people don't see that as important. I think there are other skills, being able to understand complex issues, being able to explain them to people in a succinct way to bring them along on the journey, being able to build coalitions with people that may not share your worldview. I mean, these are all important ingredients. But I think the most important is resilience. This is a tough job. You get your head knocked off if you stick your head up, speak out on issues. There'll be a large group of people that will think you're on the wrong track or won't agree with you, and they'll attack you personally in many instances. But the ability to get yourself back up off the canvas if you've been knocked down is a really important skill in politics, as it is an important skill in life. And there's only one way to develop those skills, and that's by getting involved, by making difficult decisions, and by having setbacks. How you respond to those setbacks will so often define your success going forward.
Yeah, I love that metaphor that seemed to come up quite a few times, that idea of being a participant and not being a spectator from the stands.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, there are plenty of people that will, knock you. There will be plenty of people that will throw rocks, but there are very few people that will step up to the plate and say, you know what, I believe in what I'm doing. I believe that we can make our community or our country better, and that will actually put their money where their mouth is. I'm one of those people, and it's been a very rewarding experience. But there are certainly more people than me with different skills and different things that they can contribute. We should be encouraging them to get involved in the debate.
Absolutely. And I think just going one step further, I want to talk a little bit about one of the issues that has been quite topical in politics, and that is the mistreatment of women in politics. Obviously, there's been a lot of news in the media, as we all know, and you actually recently wrote an article in the Sydney Morning Herald saying, quotas for women in the Liberal Party are long overdue. I'm just curious as to what your advice would be to young girls or women who are considering a career in politics.
Yeah, again, get involved. I mean, we are desperate to ensure that our party, our body politic, is reflective of the community that we're hoping to serve. That's how you'll get better policies and better representation. And right now, we need to get our best and brightest on the field. And certainly from the Liberal Party's perspective, we can't say we've got the best and brightest represented in our party and in our parliaments if we're not adequately representing over 50% of the community. So I want to see more women getting involved in the political process. I certainly want more women getting involved in the Liberal Party. And from my perspective, as a minister in the New South Wales government, as a member of parliament, I want to do whatever I can to help give young people or all people a leg up to getting involved in the political process, particularly young women that have found it hard to break through these barriers. There are a lot of barriers that have been put in place, and we need to break them down if we're going to be a successful political party and we're going to successfully be a successful government representing the community into the future. So my message is get involved. Don't feel that you're not welcome. You are so welcome, and people like me want to provide the support to enable you to thrive, just like other people enabled me to thrive when I first started out in the party.
And I think it's so important as well to mention that, just to make an impact, you don't necessarily have to become a politician. There's also so many avenues such as social media and ways that young people are now engaging in the political conversation. And I think, what amazing times we're living in for young people to have the ability to do that and create some sort of change, even if they're not a politician.
Yeah, totally. You don't need to be a politician to make a difference. There are so many avenues which you can do that. I mean, you could be Mr. Jack Pittman hosting a great podcast, inspiring people to be more passionate, for example. But, whether it's, the political environment, whether it's the corporate world, whether it's becoming a teacher or a community worker. There are so many ways that you can make our community and our country a better place. And I just say that, as I said previously, don't sit on the sidelines, don't complain about things as they are, get involved in the process and make them as they should be.
Absolutely love that. Matt, why are you passionate about climate change?
I'm passionate about climate change because I care about the future of our planet and I care about the future of our economy. This is not just an environmental argument anymore. This is about the type of jobs that our kids are going to have, the type of prosperity that they're going to enjoy, and the type of planet they're going to inherit. It's not one or the other. It's not reducing emissions at the expense of our economy. We can do both. And, the rest of the world is moving in this space. I think 50% of the world's GDP is now committed to hit net zero emissions by 2050. That's 70% of Australia's two-way trade. So, if Australia doesn't start moving in the right direction on these issues, then we're going to be left behind. And that's going to come at the expense of our jobs and our way of life. And that's a price too high to pay. So, there's no country on the planet better placed to win in this low carbon environment than Australia. I'm not suggesting that we should take action on climate change just because it's good for the environment. I'm saying that there's this huge economic opportunity for us as a nation, and we should grab it. We've got some of the best renewable resources anywhere on the planet. We've got an abundance of wind, abundance of solar. We can do things like pumped hydro. And if you get that installed in your electricity system, you're going to get yourself some of the lowest cost, most reliable energy anywhere on the planet. That gives you a competitive advantage when it comes to energy-intensive industries. Energy-intensive industries, manufacturing and things like that. That means jobs, that means opportunity, that means prosperity. But more than that, we're also able to do things that the rest of the world's going to need. So things like hydrogen. Hydrogen is going to be, we're going to get to net zero, hydrogen is going to play a key role in that. And there's nowhere else better place to produce that and provide the world with that than right here in Australia. So we should do it. We should take action on climate change because it's good for the environment. But we should also take action on climate change because it will ensure that Australia remains a prosperous, successful nation. And my view is that we can not only be an energy superpower, but we can be an economic one to boot. But it requires us moving now. This opportunity won't fall in our lap. It requires leadership. It requires action from government, and that's certainly what I'm trying to do.
And so at times it seems like the political debate or conversation around the environment becomes highly politicized. What do we need to do to ensure that progress is actually being made and that people are held accountable so that, positive change is created? Like, how do we convince people and, I guess, show them that there's an opportunity here?
Well, I think it requires leadership, and that's certainly what people in my role should be doing, stepping up to the plate, explaining exactly why we're taking the steps we are, why it's important, and bringing the community with us. For too long, this debate has been polarised by politics, polarised by cultural wars. I mean, that stuff is senseless and pointless. We need to move forward in this debate. We need to bring the community with us, because the cost of not doing so will be huge for our environment and also for our economy.
Yeah, certainly when you look at it that way, sounds like a great opportunity, and certainly sounds like something we should be doing more of. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses over the coming years in the short term and long term. I'm just curious, Matt, you've obviously enjoyed a very successful and illustrious career up until now in regards to politics. I'm just curious, are there any lessons or things that stand out to you that you've learnt through this journey of politics?
Look, I think there's a lot of lessons. That's a pretty open-ended question, but a couple of ones from me are that, you create your own luck through hard work and determination, by not taking no for an answer, by picking yourself up off the canvas when you get knocked down. I mean, these jobs, whether it be senior roles in politics, senior roles in business, success in life, it doesn't come easy. It requires hard work. It requires persistence and dedication. It requires not taking no for an answer and believing in what you're doing. So there have been important lessons for me. You don't always get it right. You will encounter setbacks, and it's how you respond to those setbacks that will determine your success going forward. I've had plenty of knocks. I've had plenty of times where I didn't think I'd make it, but I kept fighting. I kept working. There were people that were much smarter than me. There were people that were much more charismatic. Certainly, obviously, people that were much better looking, but should have had everything handed to them on a platter. But I tell you what, there are very few people that worked harder than I did, that dug their networks deeper than I did, or that wanted it more. So my lesson is work hard, really, value your education and try and learn as much as possible. Don't take no for an answer, and never, ever, ever give up.
Is it that passion and that desire to be successful at what you enjoy that allows you to be more resilient and overcome setbacks?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. That when you believe in what you're doing, when you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like work. You're fighting for something you believe in. So I found my passion. I found what I believed in. I worked out where my true north was, and nothing was going to stop me from achieving those dreams and that passion.
How can people find their passion? What advice would you give to people about following their passions?
Well, I think try different things. Certainly, politics was something that I got involved in. I was always interested in it, but I got a taste for it. I got involved in the process, and I worked out if it was the right thing for me, and it was. And I tried lots of different things. My career at PwC, that was a good job, but it wasn't what inspired me. I wasn't passionate about it. I'd been involved in sports and things like that, and I love that stuff. But what made me want to get out of bed in the morning, what made me come alive, I was able to find it. But it wasn't, it didn't just happen overnight. It was a bit of trial and error. It was trying different things, meeting different people, considering different ideas, and finding what it was that inspired me and made me passionate.
And we're just wrapping up. Last few questions here that I want to ask you about. What do you hope to achieve before leaving politics?
Look, I'm not going to measure myself success based on, positions or titles. I'm going to measure my success on how big a contribution I can make to our community and to our country. So for example, in this climate space, delivering the biggest renewable energy package in the nation's history, setting ourselves up to have the cheapest, most reliable form of clean energy is something that is going to be a measure of my success. So again, it's not about positions or titles. It's going to be about achieving good outcomes for the community, for our state, and indeed our country. Hopefully at the end of my career, I can look back and say, yep, our country was better because of my involvement in public life. That's what's going to guide me. That's how I'm going to measure success.
What are you most grateful for right now?
I'm most grateful for my family and my friends, the wonderful support that I have from them. They've been there for me in the good times, but also in the bad times. I'm most grateful for the wonderful friends and opportunity I've been given by, so many people. There's a lot to be grateful for, and I don't take it for granted.
Final question, Matt, I want to ask you for the podcast is, where can people go to learn more about the work you do? Where can they go to learn more about the projects you're involved in, things like that?
Apart from your great podcast, Jack Pittman, they can go to my website. They can follow me on Facebook or Twitter, Kean MP, or they can chase me on Instagram. So that's the best way to engage with me, I find. It doesn't go through all the gatekeepers in my office. It comes directly to me, provides me with direct feedback, and helps me understand what the concerns are out there. So if you're interested in what we're doing, please jump on board, follow me, provide me feedback. It helps me do my job better.
Matt Kean, thank you so much for joining me on the Passion Effect podcast to talk about your passion for politics. It was an absolute pleasure to take the time and speak to you, and I'm really grateful that we had this conversation. So thank you so much.
Great to meet you, Jack. Thank you.
And that just about wraps up episode 29 of the Passion Effect podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing to the channel below if you believe in living a happier and more purposeful life through your passions. Thank you so much to Kloudii Music for making the podcast theme song. And as always, keep following your passions.